So this one's obviously a little bit loaded. I'm sure you can tell by the title of the video, but politicians are going to take a stab at fixing college athletics, which I know is a statement that may give you a headache. Not something that you'd be particularly thrilled to hear about happening. I think, though, the Big 12 is going to be at the forefront of it all, which is crazy, right? But will it actually give the Big 12 what the league needs to be competitive long term? That, I think, is a very complicated answer here. Okay, so there's a lot to explain. Just to go back to what this is all coming from, we start with the news breaking earlier this week that President Trump is going to put together a presidential commission on college athletics. So according to Ross Dellinger, who wrote about this for Yahoo Sports, he said the commission is expected to deeply examine the unwieldy landscape of college sports, including the frequency of player movement in the transfer portal, the unregulated booster compensation paid to athletes, the debate of college athlete employment, preserving the Olympic sports structure, the application of Title IX to school revenue share payments, and even conference membership makeup and conference TV contracts. Those with knowledge of the commission told Yahoo Sports. That at the end there, I think, is the biggest key here, because if you want what is ultimately truly best for the Big 12, what you want is for this Project Rudy plan that Cody Campbell really supports to play out. That is definitely what you want. And that would involve manipulating the TV deal to be all of college football instead of just individual conferences. And then you could reorganize based on, geographic conferences that make sense. Okay. So the fact that that is in the reporting from Ross Dellinger, that is something that's on the table to be discussed, it won't surprise you to learn that once I go through here in just a second and show you what Cody Campbell has written about Texas Tech Mega Booster, who is going to be one of the co-chairs on this committee. Now, before that, the first initial reports were about Nick Saban. Okay, so Saban, obviously Alabama legend, arguably the best coach of all time. Saban was speaking at, Saban spoke to Donald Trump when he was there at Alabama for the commencement speech recently. So, of course, Saban is going to be one of the co-chairs of this committee, which, fine. I get it. But I also get, if you're a Big 12 fan, and some of you tweeted this at me, like how that would raise some alarm bells, because Nick Saban went on the Pat McAfee show not that long ago. This was more attached to the college football playoff. And he said 40 teams is where we need to cut this thing off at. We need a 40-team division, basically, and let them do their own thing, operate that way, and that would be the best thing for college football. That should send alarm bells to literally every single campus in the Big 12. No, you might think your school would have a shot. Let me break down the math for you on 40, okay? There are 18 teams in the Big 10. There are 16 in the SEC. That is 34. Notre Dame makes 35. North Carolina is the hottest prize on the board after that. That's 36. Josh Pate, I just saw, had Clemson ranked number 1 in the country right now in his post-spring top 25. Like, Clemson's 37. Florida State, they're going to be included somewhere. That's 38. I assume that Miami's getting included. That's 39. 39 teams. That's 39 of 40, ladies and gentlemen. So if you think that your team and your Big 12 fan base is making the cut, boy, you're going to be battling it out for one spot, it would sure appear, in Nick Saban's world. But to save us all, here comes Cody Campbell. Okay, you've heard me on this channel, even if you are, not really aware of him. You've heard me on this channel talk about him a lot lately. Texas Tech Mega Booster. He's a multi-billionaire. He sold one of his companies for like $4 billion recently. And he was already a billionaire with a B before that, I do believe. So he's got tons of money. He's the guy bankrolling this number 1 portal class that Tech has put together. And he's now going to be one of the co-chairs on this committee along with Nick Saban. I mean, let that sink in. Like, before I get into the details of what this all means for the Big 12, you got Nick Saban, the greatest college football coach of all time, from the SEC, from Alabama. He's one of the guys. The other guy is Cody Campbell to head this thing up. That's huge to have that level of representation. Now, the rest of the committee, it's going to be made up of a lot of other figureheads, similar sorts of backgrounds that you're going to see there. And I'm sure all conferences will be represented. And I get all that. But we're talking about co-chairs here. And Cody Campbell has been pretty outspoken about what he thinks is best for college football. And not surprisingly, one, it is something that I think would be best for literally everybody when we're talking about the entire college sports model. And I think it would be in the best long-term interest of the Big Ten and the SEC, but it won't be in their best short-term interest. And it is something that you would expect somebody from Big 12 country to push here. Okay. Now, I also got some pushback from at least one good friend of mine who saw it initially and was like, wait, hold on. I'm a little worried here because Cody Campbell he's got to be loving this free-for-all world that we're in right now, because Texas Tech can just go buy the number one portal class in the country and he can use his money against anybody in the country. Like, he's going to win that battle basically every single time. Why would he want to change anything from where it's at right now? Well, beyond the fact that even though he has a ton of money, I don't know that he wants to in perpetuity have to fund an escalating arms race where right now the cost of Texas Tech's football roster is already $40 million. I don't think he's going to want to continue doing that and watch that price go up and up and up every single year. But beyond just that, if you look at what he's written, like he's got a paper trail here. Lots of articles that he has written, most of them in the Federalist. But you can go look it up. If you get the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter, by the way, you've already seen the cliff notes here of everything he has written, and you can see the actual stuff if you want to read the whole long form thing. ofbnews.com to subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. Click the link in the description of the video. But I think he's very much on board for what I think is the best plan long term for the sport, and would certainly be best case for the Big 12 and ACC, and that is Project Rudy. Another thing that we have talked about on here before. It is one of the Super League proposals. It would take in some private equity money to jumpstart it and get it going, but they've got a hell of a proposal. One that says there would be over $1 billion per year extra from what everybody is making right now in the college athletic space to be distributed among everybody. Okay. So here's what Cody Campbell specifically is pitching first. I will do that, and then I will take you more into the details of Project Rudy, but you'll see how much overlap there is here. So what Cody Campbell wants, number one, an antitrust exemption, which is really the key to everything, because it's going to let you enforce some of these rules without getting just destroyed in court over and over again. Number two would be no more individual state NIL laws, because right now you've got individual states adjudicating NIL differently, allowing some states different NIL opportunities than others. You remember some states, it was like you could start paying a kid NIL where they were still in high school. It was different states trying to give their schools an advantage. So just get one set of laws that would govern everybody and no more individual stuff. Number three, student athletes are not employees. So he's definitely not going down the road of student athletes are employees. This is, I think, the most interesting part and the key part here, and that is to allow the schools to pool their media rights together, which he wrote about getting college football involved in the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961, which is what allowed the NFL to do that, to pool all of its media rights and then sell it as just the one entity. That's what college football would do under Project Rudy. And then finally, Cody Campbell is really a big proponent on, hey, reorganize the conferences based on geography, kind of the old world order, so that it cuts down on the travel costs and the ridiculous stuff that we're putting student athletes through with having to travel from LA to Piscataway on a Tuesday night to go play volleyball, like that sort of thing. That is all very well documented, what Cody Campbell has written about. I mentioned it's in the Federalist, ofbnews.com. Subscribe to the newsletter. You can go find, if you go to look into the old post there, when you subscribe, you can find that article. You can also find it on Twitter at JLKurtz if you want the direct link to it. So Project Rudy needs that Sports Broadcasting Act piece to work in full, because it pitches, hey, take everybody, pool their rights. Well, who has everybody, John? Well, in Project Rudy, that's 70 teams instead of 40. So I just gave you the Nick Saban 40 plan. How about you expand that and broaden that to 70? Now we're talking. That is much, much better. You would pool your media rights together. They claim that would net everybody over $1 billion extra per year, which could be divvied up to where each school is making $25 million more per year from what they're making right now. It would have incentive-based media revenue distribution, so it would not be equal. Okay, so big brands could still keep their advantage. Big brands would take more of the pot, and schools that are, in particular, would just be incentive-based. Like, you win, You keep winning, you stay at the top levels of this thing, you're going to make more money. Okay. Promotion and relegation are a part of this, which I think sounds great. I think that would be a really fun piece to add to college football. And that's a part of what generates extra TV money, because you would have relegation games at the end of the year that suddenly are much more meaningful than they were before if it's just a couple of last place teams duking it out in late November, right? And then I mentioned the geographically based conferences that make more sense, cut down on travel costs. So a ton of overlap there between those two. And so I started looking into Cody Campbell. I was like, man, this is great. This guy basically views that as the utopia for college sports and where it needs to go. And now he's the co-chair on this thing with Nick Saban. I mean, Cody Campbell, I can't imagine, is going to be in that position of power and let this thing die or let this thing go through at some 40-team cutoff where Nick Saban's just going to cut out the entire Big 12. Now, John, how realistic is all of this? That's great. Mr. Apple Pie in the sky. That sounds awesome. What are the odds that this actually happens? Well, it's very good points. It's fair to be very cynical about it. I understand that, because the biggest hurdle here is that you would be asking the Big Ten and the SEC, those schools, to give up power, give up some level of control, because in the Project Rudy scenario, they still have extra revenue. They're still going to run the sport and have a bunch of the advantages they do right now. But it won't be to the level that they do right now, where they're literally making like twice as much money as the Big 12 and the ACC. And if you're Florida and you've got Florida State in your state, you're taking in 30 or 40 million more than them per year. It's probably not going to be that level of advantage. And so how likely is it that somebody in America in 2025 is going to willingly relinquish power in the name of altruism? That's not very likely. Now, I would also say I am a big proponent of this. I've said it already tonight, and I'll say it over and over again. I still think it's in the best interest of the Big Ten and SEC schools long term, because I think it avoids the scenario where long term you get some atrophy from fans because you're cutting out large swaths of being able to be legitimately competitive at the highest level. I don't think that's something they want to mess with long term with their cash cow that they have right now. But even anybody relinquishing short term power for the benefit of altruism or what's in their best interest long term, not something you're seeing a lot of people doing in America in 2025. So that's a huge hurdle. Okay. But do you have the power to do it? Could Congress, could the president step in and find a way to actually make that happen if that's what the committee is going to recommend? That, I think, is the wild card. And how realistic do I think that is? Dude, I have no idea. I mean, I have no idea. But I think if you try to tell me you think you have any idea how likely it is, I think you're wrong. Nobody has any idea. Nobody has any idea. This regime that is in power right now is not really one for norms or rules. Like, we don't know where this could go or what could happen. And that's a part of the intrigue for me here. Like, let's see where this thing goes. And we've got like this train. I don't know where it's going. I don't know where these tracks lead at all. It's going in through a tunnel into the darkness. I have no clue, but I know who one of the captains is, and he's wearing a Raider red hat. Right? Like he's guns up. He's got a Big 12 logo on his chest. And that, I think, is a very, very good thing. So I'm here for it. And I'm along for the ride right now, man. Let's see what happens here. It could also be totally nothing. Obviously, we have a lot bigger things to be worrying about. It could get totally whitewashed and we never hear about it again. I don't know. But I do think it gives me more hope than I had before. Okay. It certainly does there.